Okay, awesome. So, hello again, another quarantine podcast that we have going for the university. This time we have 3 different people. I'm getting a notification. I need to get rid of those. We have Ali, we have Joel, and we have Aran here today, and we're going to all chat about working on other projects that are not your own while being in university. So, yeah, we're going to sort of jump around a bit of a wide range of things. I don't know if you guys want to do like a quick introduction of yourselves, like one at a time. We can start with Joel if you like, and just like sort of say what you're sort of interested in, and then I mean whoever's really like ready, I don't mind.
My name is Joel. I am a first-year film production student at the University of Salford, obviously, and I am more interested in the writing and directing aspect of film production at the moment. So,
Nice. Aran or Ali, whoever's ready to go.
All right, my name's Ali. I'm second year University of Salford student, going in for cinematography and independent filmmaking route. Yeah, that's me.
And hi, I'm Aran. I'm a second year University of Salford student, and I specialise in producing, and I occasionally first AD and camera up.
Nice. A nice, simple, quick one. I don't know if you guys just like, before we actually start about this, I don't know, like, do you want to just say, because it's a bit of an elephant really in the room. Everyone's been talking about, obviously, for the past few weeks. We've all been stuck inside because of coronavirus and all the joy that's brought everyone. I mean, how is everyone holding up just in general? Like, how have you been finding it?
It's nice to have like be with people at the moment. Like I'm on lockdown with my dad and my brother, and also to tie it into film, we've been doing this thing to sort of add structure to the days, which is watch a new film every night and then just sort of like discuss it. So it's madness hasn't set in yet. I can say that. So I've been holding up all right.
Always good.
It's been kind of similar here. I've been quarantined with my girlfriend. I'd be in a much worse state if it was me by myself. But I mean, aside from playing, like the only productive thing we're really doing is, like, for me, it's like planning my assignments. And then I've been going through like the Studio Ghibli backlog with her, and we've been like talking about it because it's all these like classical film, like new modern classics that we've not really watched, and
they have a new one coming out, don't they, soon as well? There's I think so. I think there's a new release being planned. I'm not sure the ins and outs of that, but I know there's definitely something happening.
I got to look into that.
Yeah,
isn't the newest one was Ponyo on the Cliff, and that was a weird one.
Nice.
Yeah, and Ali.
Yeah, lockdown's not hit me like others, innit? I'm still working in it, so I don't know. It's still not hit me like everyone else, innit? It's only been 2 weeks-ish, 14 days.
Yeah, I feel like it's been about 2 weeks. I can't really tell anymore. I don't know what day it is. I keep forgetting because I've got no structure to my life anymore. I wake up and sit at my desk for like 12 hours and then I go to bed. I wake up the next day and do the same thing.
Yeah. At least we all got time to edit our backlogs. All our
exactly. Stuff. Yeah, I've got to clear out all my hard drives, which is cool. Not really, but yeah. Trying to get that sorted is always great. So obviously all the films have currently stopped. So what were you guys like working on just before this all happened then?
My directorial debut would have been my first sort of go at what I'm hoping to do eventually in this industry, which is directing. It was and writing. I'd written the full script for it. It had gotten the green light, the go aheads. Everything was lined up to happen. We'd started doing blocking with the actors, which was a bit of an awkward experience first time around, because obviously when you haven't had much experience in directing and then you worry about sort of like working with actors for the first time, it's a bit more like nerve-wracking. But yeah, I was really looking forward to finally having something like under my belt that I could be like, this is the example of what I can do in this field. And then unfortunately, due to circumstances, it's not happening yet, hopefully. So.
Yeah, it's a shame, but at least are you still planning on like continuing with this project, after everything's sort of moved off and it's not a problem anymore? Are you gonna carry on with it?
I'm hoping it would be a bit difficult. It would be a bit difficult to do off my own back, like just without the sort of safety net of it being a university project. But I feel like if I wanted to sort of present it as, I want to do this film like next term, like next year, because I was like, I have this project that was ready to go and I'd like to do it, but we're all in different groups. Everyone else is going to be coming to their new group with, we were going to do this film, please, can we do it? So it's going to be a bit difficult to sell at that point, I think. So I'm just worried about the status of it at this point. But hopefully, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. How about you two, Aran and Ali? What kind of things are you guys working on?
It's beyond like all of the, like I was on a bunch of third year projects that all got slowly and quite sadly shut down. I was working on I was producing this my final second year film. It was quite which is fortunately this came before we started spending lots of money on like van hire and securing locations, and we hadn't like done actor release forms and all that. But it was really just before that all started off. But it was quite a shame really, because we were going to be having lots of these really big, like I spoke to you about it, Charlie. I don't know if I mentioned it to you as well, Aarif. We were building this giant like owl monster costume, and we had the frame had finally started to come together, and we had a load of the raw materials ready, and then unfortunately Makerspace closed. So that was really like the nail in the coffin for the project. So we're waiting out until summer, because third year film is like a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah, definitely. And Ali?
No, we had our film all ready to go. It was a nice idea, but everyone still wants to get it done in summer if quarantine ends early. But I don't know, is the kit store going to be open after quarantine summer?
Kit stores are normally open during summer, from what I know. However, like whether or not the quarantine will still impose on the university and they'll still have to be shut. If we're lucky, stuff will get released, but otherwise you'll have to like sort of rope in your friends who have bought expensive cameras and
I see.
all the equipment.
But no, still trying to get everything done if we can. Don't know how long this quarantine is gonna last. It's looking more scary by the day.
Yeah, it's looking less like it's gonna be soon.
Like keeping, to be honest with you, I feel like the more I read the news, the worse it gets. Do you know what I mean? Like it stresses me out so much.
It can't be healthy. It can't be healthy. It can't be healthy to just have a constant media flow of everything's bad, things are getting worse. It can't be good for your mindset. I just sort of like to abstain from watching the news constantly, because it's just a lot at this point, So
I don't know what's the situation been for you guys with your assignments, because I know like for the third years and second years it's quite similar. Like the options are finish the film if you filmed it already, like send a half finished film and the other half is like animatics, or do a video essay. Like is it the same for you guys as well?
Last I heard, I'm in a group chat with all the people from my PCG, and there was some rumblings going on about the idea that we still have to make a short film with the resources that we have, and the lack of actors, and the lack of sets, and the lack of basically anything that you need, or a script that you could pull off in this environment, that would actually be compelling in any way and not just be a shot of people walking around an empty house.
7 quarantine films.
Exactly. It would be something along those lines. It would be an anthology. It would be an anthology film about what it's like to be in quarantine, right? No, but yeah, it's hopefully going to work out in the end. Got to remain optimistic.
Still making a film then, as far as I can tell from what you just said, you're still having to make something that
seemingly,
Yeah,
there's seemingly other options, like an animatic type thing that you could send in instead, which would be more ideal, because then you could be a lot more creative with what you've got, with what you're trying to make still, even though it's just drawn. But I don't know, if it's making a film in this environment, and like I don't have an expensive camera, I don't have like microphones or anything like that, it's not going to turn out the best, to be honest.
When I was younger, a lot of my original YouTube videos on my other YouTube account, I used to film them with my old phone. And I used to set up the phone on. It had like a little case, and I used to set it up so it was sort of at an angle and like trying to film stuff with my phone. And back in the day, you know, when I was younger, I was enjoying it, and I was sort of doing it for fun mostly. And you can still end up making something half decent, but you can tell it's been made on a phone. You can tell it's been made in like just your house. And unless you do some crazy stuff with VFX, I feel like the 90% of the films will just be based around, oh, these are people in quarantine, guys. Like, what else can you talk about? Like,
definitely.
It's also like people expecting people to be comfortable in front of a camera is really exactly. Like I went for the most paperworky, like above the line, not in front of the camera job I could, because I hate being in front of cameras, like on films. I can't do it. So like I'm really grateful that we've been given options to do other stuff, because I feel like my own act, because they I don't know like what Janan has told you in like this year, but what it was drilled into us in first year, if your performance is not good, it ruins your whole film. And I think expecting filmmaking students, not like media and performance students, to deliver a compelling performance is like, it's insane. Like doing that, I don't know about that.
The issue though with making a film under these circumstances is that it doesn't allow us to put anything we've learned over the past few weeks and few months to any use, because we're not using any of the equipment that we've spent hours learning to deal with. And in terms of cinematography, I'm working with an iPhone 6, so it's not like it's going to turn out very impressive looking, you know. So
there's some things you can do though. Like I think there's been a lot of, like I've been messing around. I have this giant like IKEA lamp that you can't really see because of this filter, but I've been like having fun about using principles of lighting to create some interesting shots. You can do, if you like, I'm not even for your assignment work, like a lot of certainly second years have been trying to find ways to kind of keep that film part of your brain ticking over, like doing some physical tests with lighting, even if it's shot on a phone. Like remember that first lighting lecture that you guys also did, where you have Janan puts those little models on a table and you have to do all the different lighting setups. Recreating that's fun. And we've been lots of like, I think it's like 10 of my friends are learning how to use DaVinci Resolve or something like that. Like there's technical stuff you can do at home on quite low power PCs that I think is like, if you want to, just a suggestion, like if you're trying to think of ways to keep your brain creatively stimulated in these dark, miserable times.
Yeah, definitely. No, I get that. That's a good idea, to be honest. But the other thing is that if I want to work with, I went from sort of, obviously I was directing the project that I was going to be doing, and obviously that meant I had a very sort of hands-on role with casting for the first time, because also I wrote it, so they were characters that I had come up with, and I was like, oh, I have a very strong idea of what they'd be like. And now I'm going from casting and working with blocking actors to now, if I want actors in a new project that I've got to do for this, it will be my dad or my brother. Neither of them are particularly great actors. I doubt I'd get a great performance out of them. Yeah, so it's not the best situation, but hopefully I could just do like an animatic instead, because that would be better. I'd more rather be graded on that rather than whatever I could throw together, you know. So.
If we want to like sort of weave this a little bit more towards actually what we could be doing, you know, if everything was fine and the year was continuing as per normal, what benefits do you guys do you actually physically see from working on someone else's project that is not your own? You have no incentive to do well on this project. You're not being graded for it necessarily. You're not getting paid for it necessarily. And you know, what incentives do you have to work on a project like that? Because why would you bother? Do you know what I mean? Why would you spend the energy to do something that you don't is no direct benefit to yourself? I am playing a little bit devil's advocate here because I've got some strong points for this, but I'm just trying to, you know,
I think to say that there's no, I know you're playing devil's advocate, but I think to say that there's no incentive is just not true. From a basic skills development point of view, you know, the more you do something, the better you are going to get at it. Getting that external input's nice, especially if you're working on people who are in second year, from first year, or working on third year films. For me, has been super beneficial in terms of set etiquette, understanding how sets work, bigger sets, looking at how people manage crew, looking at how they manage cast, what are more, they've learned all the stuff that you've already been through. How are they applying that? And then from a networking point of view, you meet so many people on film sets, and if you make a good impression, that's your next job straight away. If you make one really solid impression and they like you enough, they just keep calling you back again and again, because film it's all nepotism. Your friends will hire friends if they're good at their job, and that's just the way it is, especially at student level, where you haven't got street cred per se. You know what I mean?
Film is all nepotism. Film is all nepotism is the quote of the day. Right?
You can put that on my tombstone.
Yeah. I feel like the incentive though. I feel like the incentive though for someone like me as a first year student who's only this was his second project round, was that once you've worked on someone else's project as, say, a cinematographer, like I did for my first one, once you do that, and if you feel like a good enough job was done, next time around where you're doing another project and people are like, oh, who do I want in my team? Who do I want to do this or that? I feel like the incentive is, oh, if you did a good job and you've been able to prove to people that you're good in that field, people will once again be like, oh, yeah, he's good at this. I want him to do this for my project, So it's more just about... I don't necessarily see anything wrong with working on trying to realize other people's vision, I suppose, because it's at the end of the day, film is a collaborative process, and sometimes you're not going to be the head of the vision, but it's just all about trying to help other people create almost. So yeah.
But no, I think you guys hit the nail perfectly. It's all about practicing what you've already done, learning more, especially when you're younger, gaining the confidence of being on a bigger set. It acts as volumes. It'll change how you are going to act when you're on your third year film. You're going to be on another level of confidence, and you're just going to be able to play around with it better.
Yeah, I'm hoping the confidence will come in at some point. Right, I'm waiting.
No, he definitely does. As you get better at something, especially, I find an interesting thing to do is to sort of, if there's someone that necessarily doesn't know as much, don't be arsehole about it. Go and help teach them. Try and teach someone else something, and that not only reinforces knowledge in your head for oh wait, I actually don't know how to do this thing. You can go to someone, tell them oh yeah, this is how I do this, this, and this. It's not necessarily right, but this is the way I do it, and then you can go from there, and that reinforces your own knowledge and also helps someone else. And you can sort of work together, especially with third years, because they're working with the best kit that the university has overall. So you can learn a lot from them as well, and sort of the ways they work. I see that a lot. I mean, I don't like doing set work as much because most of my work is in post. I'm going down editorial super hard. So I'm actually still working for some third years at the moment because I have some stuff to edit because they finished their film. And obviously, there's bits and pieces where you'd be like, oh, actually, I wonder why they didn't do this thing, or this thing, and why this thing is like this. And obviously asking them, you find out that, oh, yeah, they had troubles on set, or they had troubles with this or that. And then sort of using that knowledge, you can sort of expand your own and be like, oh, okay, so if they made this mistake, how can I try to flip it and not make that mistake later? It's not necessarily going to happen, and I'm not necessarily going to not make that mistake that they did because just because I've seen how they've done it. But it just gives me a little bit of a wider understanding of how to maybe do something. But yeah, obviously you guys are all I think it's nice because you are all sort of different areas. We've got camera, we've got producing, and then we've got directing and sort of writing and stuff as well, which is awesome. So obviously while you're in, there is things you guys could still be doing, obviously, in quarantine. Cool.
Mhm.
Writing especially is a big one, I think. Writing.
That's the one. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
trying to sort of like get myself to work on a new script at some point, or like a new short film idea or something along those lines, and just mad writer's block at the moment. Nothing's hitting me, and it's just like it's not good at the moment. I kind of need something to get in here at some point, like a good idea. Because once I get the idea, it's just, from that point, it's just, oh, how could I develop that? What would be like a good? I feel like what works for me is that when I'm writing something, once I have the moment of whilst I'm writing it, I am sort of surprised by its own developments. That's when I know I've got something good. You know, that's when I know I'm happy with what I'm writing. When it genuinely surprises me as I'm writing it. You know, so.
You could try some collaborative work, so work with someone else who might want to be a writer, or someone from second or third year, ask them about it, and then go from there, and maybe brainstorm some ideas for a couple of hours, and then just sort of come up with or one thing that I do, I play D&D a lot in my spare time, and that is so good for idea generation, and just just generally coming up with sort of when you're playing with other people as well, because they all have their own different ideas of how things are going to happen. You can almost create a world without having to do any of the work, almost, because you can get other people to bring a lot of stuff into it. So yeah, maybe do some, if you're having a writer's block, maybe have some, chat to some other people online.
I've never played D&D, funnily enough, but my mate Ben, shout out Ben, that I'm moving into a flat with I'm meant to be moving into a flat with in July. He is always talking about how he wants to start playing D&D into the flat we're moving in with our future flatmates, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go then. So haven't gotten there yet, but if it's as creatively stimulating as you say, can't wait. That'll be helpful.
Yeah,
so,
it definitely is for writing.
There's a subreddit called r/writing prompts, and a lot of the times, if you're looking to if you're in the mood to just write some short stories, you can often, it's like Charlie says, you're crowdsourcing ideas. You can just go on there, and any of these posts will just give you a 2-sentence prompt, and you can write. You don't even have to post it. You don't have to read anyone's responses. But I've been going on there for years, just reading through stuff, seeing how what kind of stories resonate with people the most. Now, I know Reddit is not exactly, much like Twitter, it's not a perfect, representation of the whole planet, but it's a good idea if you're wanting to, because people always come up with these really interesting, thought-provoking ideas. There's a lot of garbage, but if you find the proverbial diamond in the rough.
No, I think it's still good to read garbage, though, right? If you can read garbage and then go, oh, I know why this is crap and I know how I could improve it, would that not also be, if you read something, you think, oh, why is this so bad? And you sort of look into it.
No, it would.
You could not so much fix those ideas almost.
It's not so much ignoring the crap, but it can be very, what's the word? Depressing. Reading loads and loads and loads of bad ideas over and over again. So I think that maybe if you balance it out, maybe that's the best way to go forward. That said, I've not been on there because I did screenwriting last trimester to develop my, if you're looking at doing writing, I cannot recommend the screenwriting module enough, because our lecturer Beth is she's the best. Honestly, she's fantastic. Even if you
shout out.
Exactly, Beth McCann. Awesome. I took screenwriting purely. I was never going to be a writer, never going to be a director. I took it so I can understand what makes a script good and how a writer's approaching me as a producer. And I think if you broaden, if you take this broader perspective to every part of work that you do, you can understand that no matter every experience can be tied in to what you're trying to get to. So working on third year films, I'm not graded for it. I'm well, the experience you gain and the contacts you get will serve you in future on your own projects, whether they hire you back in future once they've graduated and founded their own film companies, you can go and work for them, or whether you need, I don't know, a really good DOP and they say, I'm free, yeah, I'll do it for free. You can pull them on. And again, as I said, this can be applied to your module selection as well. So I think you need I think now that we've got all this time to reflect, I think what might be a good plan, I think, for any filmmakers who are sat at home wondering what to do is how am I going to make the most of my time when, once this is over, because I think as like a lot of the second years and definitely the third years are acutely aware of, once we leave the university, we lose access to all of this wonderful equipment and facilities that we have, and they cost
That's already
of money.
Yeah, with the quarantine, you can already feel the effects of people being like, I can't film anything anymore. I don't have an Arri Alexa and filming 7K raw Arri raw footage.
Some people don't have computers that can boot up Premiere. It's like, okay, what am I going to do to set myself up to just bang out as many films as I can while I'm at uni? Because, as I said, once you're out there, if you've not networked by working on third year films or working on other second year or even first year films, like if you in higher years, it's beneficial, because at the end of the day, they're either your future employees or your future employers. Just trying to stay productive. Staying productive while you've got this crutch is very important, and I think there's a lot of value. I cannot say enough how much value there is in working on these third year projects, because like I've learned so much, and Charlie, I'm sure you can say the same, like with the films you've learned, the films you've worked on, you've learned like a tremendous amount of information just through practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just that, but like even working on films within our own year and, within first year, work, like even just going to a set and seeing how other people are working, because you think you might go to a set of students and think, bloody hell, this is so much either more professional or less professional, or, just the way they're running their set and the way they're doing their things. And you just think, wow, like there's a lot you can learn either way, whether or not it's good or bad, or even if you're just having fun while you're there. And like, I think a big thing for me especially is like, make sure you guys have fun while you're actually doing these films as well, because even though you've got to take them seriously, don't do them to an extent where you think, oh well, if it's not perfect, there's no point in me doing it, and I may as well just throw myself off Media City today, because why am I spending all this money to be in university? Well, no, it's not the case necessarily. Like, enjoy the time that you do have at uni, as well as work, like doing a good job on these films. Anyway, what are your guys' personal aims for like the next year of university? Obviously, Joel has like 2 more years, and we all have
lucky
1 more year. It would have been better to have this in first year, arguably, but yeah, I just want to hit what you guys want to do, like next year. What's your sort of plan as soon as we get back? Like, are you gonna start grafting harder, or are you not asked as much now? Like, what's the?
I wouldn't say I'm not asked as much now. It's because of a minor setback, we'll call it. Yeah, just I'm done. I wash my hands of it. No. What, in terms of like what modules I'm planning on taking?
Whatever, really. Well, just personal goals, really, because like, yeah, just what's your plans?
I feel like this past year has given me a better sense of what I want to do in this field. Like I said, I came onto this like deciding that, hey, I want to be a director and a writer mostly. The other fields I've had sort of like a bit of a hand in now. I've learned a bit more about what they're about. And I feel like next year, in terms of like the modules, directing and producing and writing, like I said, I'm more about the directing side of it. Like the current module that we're doing involves directing, producing, and being a first AD, and that's still a group project that we've got to do because it's a bit more manageable under the circumstances. But I feel like those 2 roles, writing and directing, is what I want to go a bit more in on, because this year was a lot more like, I'll see what works for me, Like I don't know yet what I want to do, but now I'm like,
that first year was very helpful for directing you down that path of being like, where do I want to go? Did you come into the course knowing like, oh, I sort of want to do producing, directing, but I want to try out everything, or did you sort of like learn as you were doing it?
I had an idea of what I wanted to do initially. Like I was like, when I analyze films, when I watch films and I analyze them, what do I sort of pick on the most? What do I enjoy discussing the most? And I'm going to use that to sort of decide what I want to do. Because I feel like if the one that has the most talking points for me is the one that, hey, I'd obviously want to try out for myself. So I went into this year thinking, I'll want to do writing, directing, and cinematography even. But now by the end of this year, after having a bit of a go with cinematography, I feel like I need to focus more on just the sort of writing and directing aspect. And after going through the modules and learning a bit more about the process of writing a script and almost directing a project, in the case of the one that never was. That's definitely when the one I want to go a bit more heading on next year, I'd say. So.
But no, next year, third year, well, more on like a personal level, not as much on the university stuff. I've been so far in like my work history, I've just been doing projects that other people wanted, getting what they need done. And it wasn't always the nicest stuff to shoot. But now, because a lot of these businesses that I worked with, they're all going to be struggling after this coronavirus. I think 2 days ago we had Vapiano close. No, they went bankrupt. So a lot of businesses are going to be struggling now. So at least this will give me my personal space just to like focus on making what I want to make, get that portfolio ready, talk to companies, because after third year, we all need to start getting into industry and, getting ready to graft in it. Just got to set up got to set up our portfolios, got to set up our relationships, our networking skills. Got to be ready for end of third year.
Yeah, as a cinematographer, obviously, I don't know if you have a camera. I assume you have something you can film with. Are you doing any sort of like setup practices or like teaching yourself certain different tricks, or are you learning stuff online, or is there anything you're doing like in the meantime, or any advice you could give to people that maybe aren't sure what they could do as a cinematographer?
Right now I've still got 4 projects ready to edit, so I've not had time to go shooting. But even around the house, like there's a lot of amazing short films done in a bedroom. It's crazy. So there's always an opportunity to do that. And now that quarantine's happened, online I'm seeing people starting to do the boring room challenge, different little challenges. People are getting creative with it. And if you look around, you might get inspired. So yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that on YouTube, on these film websites, but people are working ways to keep their creative muscles moving.
Yeah, like a lot of sort of different one room sort of films type of things. Yeah, I've seen a couple different ones, and they're all quite interesting. Not that you know that they're sort of been made due to the fact that they can't go outside. But yeah, still, it's good to sort of get this practice down.
Definitely.
Aran, is there anything like, because as a producer, how would you be? What are you sort of? What are your aims, and like how are you sort of setting yourself up for them?
For third year, right? Well, I think producers are really like difficult job I found to like set yourself up for, purely because it's such there's no real, it's not like, okay, so for example, if you want to be a DOP, right? So you go in as second AC, you work your way up, you start pulling focus on shots, you get your way into first AC, then you say, oh, do you want to operate these shots? So you become like a B unit camera op. There's like a route, right? Whereas with producer, and it's very similar with directing, you kind of just have to find like these opportunities to jump up. So I've been focusing a lot on just doing lots of camera work and then mentioning my practice as a producer to other people, and trying to gauge like, okay, so in third year, what projects can I go on that will get me to doing co-producer role? So for example, working on Man at Arms, which is a third year film produced by James Knowles. James and I met at the Festival of Short Film, which I ran marketing with Juliette Holmes earlier this year. And I met him there, did Man at Arms, and then realized, oh, he's producing this. And after the film, he said, oh, do you want to co-produce something with me in third, next year? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we're still talking about that, what we want to do together. Other than that, it's mainly just producing a third year film that will be my calling card to the industry. Like, this is what I can do. These are the people I work with. And Charlie and I have been speaking about stuff for third year, and identifying people that we want to work with. It's a lot of networking and people stuff, but it's what I love. It's fun, and I can still like enjoy the more technical film part by like doing editing work, doing coloring work, doing camera work here and there. Sorry, I know it's a bit of a vague answer, but it's tough for me to give like a very specific to the point answer for something that's so, like, the role as a producer is very fluid because it's all dependent on people and they're very unpredictable at the best of times, especially at student level. So yeah, I guess just doing work that I can be proud of to put on my CV, and then I can reach out to the people that I've met at all these different events I've worked at and say, hey, look, this is what I do. These are the other things I can do. Like, can I work with you on these films? And getting your email in front of people's eyes and getting your portfolio out there. Because this is what you were saying, Ali, about like making that portfolio. If you got it, that's great. It's how are you going to get that in front of people's eyes?
The way you get it is honestly face-to-face contact. If you can get someone to a point where you can speak with them face-to-face, that is the point when you can potentially get work. Emails will not get you work. I am telling you, like, from first-hand experience, if you want to work with someone, you have to meet them face-to-face.
At best, you'll get a coffee. Like,
exactly.
And even then, they'll say yes, and then they just won't turn up.
Don't even like coffee.
No, you're gonna learn to like it. You're gonna learn to like it.
Fake it, bro. I remember in first year at the start,
caffeine.
I used to go to Costa, and he'd be like, "I'll have a small cappuccino," and then just watching him slowly go up to the medium and then to the large throughout the year as things get more stressful. You can't avoid it, man. Caffeine addiction.
It's the caffeine. It's addictive, isn't it? I feel like the thing that, relating back to what you just said with the sort of, you've got to, like, you're going to have to kind of email a bunch of people at some point, is going to become very much about networking. I feel like kind of the thing that scared me off, for lack of a better term, of the whole producing role was that it felt almost like the sort of admin of, like, it was very sort of like procedural, like, oh, this is all the paperwork you've got to fill out and stuff along those lines, and it felt very sort of like almost business-esque. And I know that in a sense filmmaking is a business, but like, I feel like I'm just more tuned to the more creative side of things, rather than, okay, we need to fill out all this paperwork, we need to know when people are going to get it, when people are going to do this and that, we need to send all this stuff off, we need to go meet these people. It's more just like, I feel like I thrive a lot more when I'm just sat down with people like the actors I was going to work with, or my producer, and it's just like, hey, this is my story idea, this is what I had in mind, this is why I think it sort of is emotionally resonant, and what we could sort of get out of this that I think would work very well. I feel like I'm more just tuned to the creative side of it rather than just the business side of things, But
this is exactly why film is a collaborative process, though, because one person individually cannot make a film on their own, a concise, consistent, and
some
beautiful film. Some people try. They can. I'm telling you, a single person on their own could not make a full film. No way. I mean, even like, because here's the thing, like, firstly, you got to have actors. You have to have actors. You've got to have someone that's going to manage your paperwork. You've got to have someone that's going to be focusing on the film, because everyone needs to focus on their own individual, like, job, and actually to make something that ends up being really good, because everyone can just do that job. They don't have to think about, oh, well, I've got to fill out this paperwork soon on, like, how long I've got to keep these cameras out for. If your DOP's thinking about the amount of money they're spending on the cameras, then they're going to be thinking about that and not thinking about what shots they're getting, or like your director's not thinking about how they're going to direct the actors, and they're more thinking about money and stuff. You need that person there to be a middleman, almost, to interact with those different elements and make sure that everything comes together, like, in a nice way. I don't know.
That's what people learn in first year very quickly, is that, like, because everyone wants to be involved in everything, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It makes everything messy. It's also like, in a positive, like, there's positives in a positive and negative way. It's like, in the positive side, it's like, oh, who's making the decisions and who has, like, a clear vision for each aspect of the production. But on the negative side, it's something like, for example, people will be very quick to, so I'm not going to name the project, but there was a scenario where people were on set for a film, and someone didn't return a piece of kit because everyone had spread out the responsibility of equipment. When it comes to returning the kit, there's a very practical problem of, oh, something's missing. Who's paying the fine? This is what happens when people start blurring lines in production. And I think it's nice to have, like, input across interdepartment discussion. But I do think as Charles said, it's very important that everyone knows, what they want to do, and that
who's responsible for what?
Who's responsible, because they've got to stick to it. Because at the end of the day, like, you can have discussions until the end of time about, oh, I think this or I think that, but if someone needs to, like, having a director that says this is the creative vision, having a producer say this is the pragmatic way we can approach this creative vision, and then having a strong DOP and a strong sound lead saying this is how we're going to execute on it, is the only way you can make a film, especially at university level, because you'll work with people with, like, as Charlie and I, and I'm sure you do as well, Ali, have experienced all too well, a range of professionalism across these projects. Even in third year, like, I've been on sets where it's like, wow, damn, I feel like I'm working on a professional film set, versus some other film sets where I've been like, I don't think the first AD knows what the schedule is. It's, it's as long as you understand what your role is and you stick to it and you commit to it, I think there's not going to be any problems.
So would that be our, like, piece of advice for someone, for anyone, either going into university or coming from first year to second year or second year to third year or whatever, is from what we've learned is that you need to remember that film is collaborative. Because I know I always end up coming back to this. I feel like I've covered it every single week we've been on the podcast, but I feel like it's such a genuinely important part of film that you can't help discussing about it, because it is so important that you've got to remember this is a massively collaborative process and everyone has to have some sort of an input, but they also need to, stay in their lane a little bit, without crossing over too much and sort of messing everything else up, because it does cause, like, because not only with university as well, you're only being you're being assessed for it, but you're not necessarily being paid, and there is also that social element that people don't normally talk about very much. A lot of these people are your friends. A lot of these people are people that you don't think you'd really want to work with, but you like hanging out with them. But when it comes to working, I have actually worked before I came to university. I was working for a couple of years, and one of those years I actually spent working with one of my mates, and it was fine when it was fine. But whenever there was a problem, there was such tension. Like, we would clash so hard and be off at each other. Well, I swore again. Sorry, Aarif. You got to bleep that. We'd be so annoyed at each other, and we'd have to constantly, like, battle between, being angry with each other and like trying to just carry on working as normal. So yeah, it's hard. I think it's pretty difficult, especially in film as well, when it does feel very high stakes, because there's a lot of your own money that you have invested into these films and stuff. And I'm almost certain the lecturers have, I've been watching all the films the lecturers have been putting out on they've been sending out emails and, like, showing us how they've done their films and how they've, the problems they ran into. Some of those are like this, like the stories that they discuss are so interesting. And, Laura, especially, her story about how she got to work for someone famous, but she was massively overshadowed by these much more, powerful directors, really, because she was young and she was a woman, and, there was no advertising money given to her, and she basically wasn't paid for this job she did for someone famous. And it's a shame, but, that is the way the industry is now at the moment.
That's the way the mafia works.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully our generation will be the ones to potentially change this and make it more of,
inclusive.
Inclusive place to work. But it's still a massive problem, and it definitely needs to be addressed. And hopefully the directors and the producers and the cinematographers of this generation are going to be the ones that maybe start changing that. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I'm probably, this is just all a bit of a pipe dream, really. I always feel like people are going to be overshadowed by the massively famous people and, such and such. But there you go. That's just,
I think,
sort of
change comes from the bottom. Change always comes from the bottom up. I think the real change that's going to come is, I think there was a big push for inclusivity in 2016. 2017 is when remember that massive wave came up online, and now it's filtered down to, like, pretty much all aspects of society.
You mean sort of the Me Too movement and stuff?
Yeah.
And, bits like
even
that.
Like, it's interesting because I remember if I went to an equality talk 3 years ago, it would have been the message would have essentially been men are trash. support women, which at the time was valid because the inequality was huge, and it's still a problem today. But I think now the messages that I'm hearing that come up, this is like on the panel I went to, the Digital Cities Expo, I think a couple of weeks ago before this disaster kicked off. It was a panel of I think 5 women, all from different backgrounds, all professional, like very senior professionals in their field. And the message generally was, be nice, be mindful that everyone should have the same opportunities to do stuff. But at the end of the day, like if your work sucks, it doesn't matter if you're, black, white, man or woman or other. It doesn't matter. As long as you do good work, I think everyone should have, I think everyone should be hired if their work is good. And this is not just film, it's all sorts of industries are going towards this, where it feels like a lot of people are worried that, especially the lower level, oh, I'm not going to get this job because I'm X, Y, or Z. And I was like, well, no, if you look at a lot of the people who are getting jobs, it doesn't matter where the background is. The work is good, and I can only speak from my experiences, right? But the sets I've been on, everyone who's good is there because they're good. It's not like a token hire. Like you're there because your work is good. And I think using this time, the core message I think of this chat we're having is use your time wisely, work on other projects outside of your own, because at the end of the day, the only good work speaks for itself, and you're not going to get it through any other merit,
So
do you guys agree with me? Do you disagree with me?
No, I agree with you. No, nothing in that whole thing just sort of stuck out to me as, oh, no, I disagree with you at this point, which is why I listened. So, yeah, no, I agree with you completely.
It makes sense. I mean, it's a problem because, you can just say it's quite easy to say at a university level, oh, my project is, I've got these people working on this project because they are good. In the real world, there are laws that say you have to have a certain percentage of this people and this people and this people, and it has to cover a whole aspect of, like, you need to make sure that you are hiring inclusively, you need to make sure that you're hiring without prejudices, and you need to make sure, like, so even if people's work isn't like necessarily amazing, you need to make sure that you're still hiring in this certain way to fill numbers. But I feel like a lot of that is going to be a numbers game, and people are only doing that because they have to, and
I've got some input on this from experience, if I may. So I used to live in South Africa, which is, I don't know if you guys know, it has a very bad history with race. And it's actually relevant because South Africa is one of the biggest upcoming film industries in the world, because it's so cheap to film in South Africa, because the minimum wage is tiny. There's nowhere near as much admin work as you have to do in places like the UK. And you can get a range of like settings in one country. So at the moment, South Africa's got a law called the quota system, where it's not like the equal opportunities actually have in the UK, where you have to hire everyone with zero prejudice, which is, that's what I think everyone should do, hire with no prejudice. But again, at the end of the day, like if someone's work is clearly better than the other, that's not hiring on, prejudice against creed or color. That's just because this person's CV is better than this person's. In South Africa, you legally have to have a percentage of male, females, and then all these different like ethnic groups. And the downside of that is because it is absolutely, like you said, Charlie, it's just because they have to. The heart's not in it. Whereas I think in film, because it's almost like quite an, especially at the university level, such an it feels like it's like an underdog environment, if you know what I mean. Like everyone's got these like extreme goals. And the only way that we're going to achieve them is if it's like an inclusive, uplifting, we're all in this together environment, which it's quite refreshing having moved here from South Africa, seeing that everyone, there's no real prejudice in our age group, or at least
I think that might just be in general what university levels might. I mean, did you two, Joel or Ali, do you guys have anything that you've got to say about this in particular, or do you want to move on to something else? Like, up to you guys.
No, I agree with everything that's been said.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's been nailed perfectly. Like nothing else to contribute on this topic. So
no, I'm not rambling too much.
No, it's fine.
It's about habit.
It's fine. You've articulated the point very well, to the point where I feel like I have nothing else to contribute that hasn't already been said. So well done, if anything. Right. So
is there anything that, like, otherwise that you guys would want to talk about just before we end, because I am aware of the time. We are on like an hour, which is normally where we start wrapping it up on these podcasts. So if you want to end with like a final, like everyone wants to sort of throw in a final comment about anything we've talked about, or anything that maybe you want to see in the future on the podcast, or just in general. Yeah, should we? I mean, we can start with Ali if you like, or Joel or Aaron, whoever.
No, I'll say this. Maybe like in future podcasts, maybe it would be nice to have like a few discussions on like films that like people have watched recently. It would be nice to sort of like put a film forward and discuss what you thought of it, and stuff like that. Yeah, that would be good.
That as our last thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, Ali.
The point that I thought you could end it on was this film is an inclusive world, like with all these different people coming together. I thought that was a really good, a good point of this the podcast. Like that's the biggest thing that stood out to me. Everything we're talking about, it all comes back to that.
Yeah, being inclusive and making sure that everyone is, doing their bit. Really,
definitely.
Make sure everyone's working to do their bit to help the film industry. Aaron?
Be nice. Just be a nice person. Care about what you do. Because if you don't care, why are you here? And at the end of the day, the only way change is going to come through is if we're all doing it together. So if you spot something that's not right, call it out, make sure it doesn't belong on your film set. And then I think change will naturally filter out throughout the population.
Okay, awesome. Those are really nice things to end on. It actually feels pretty positive. I hope everyone that's listening feels pretty positive as well. Films to recommend during lockdown or TV series. What have you been watching? Tell us why we should watch it. You've got like a minute each to give me a film.
I'll touch on it briefly, and I'll keep it something that is on Netflix at the moment. For a project, Ken's presentation project that I've got to do, we've decided to do it on Gongo, the David Fincher film, which I hadn't seen until a few days ago, and I sat down and watched it for the first time. It is incredibly compelling viewing. It's one of the best. Yeah, it's so good. It's one of like the top David Fincher films we've ever seen, and I'm a big fan of his work, David Fincher. Like Fight Club, Seven, Zodiac, Gongo might rank up there as one of his greatest. It's so compelling from like a storytelling perspective. It's really, really good. And like I said, I touched on it briefly, but Gongo, it's on Netflix. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Ali?
I was just watching a series on Netflix, Delhi Crime. It was quite
nice. I've not seen that.
Interesting. It's based in India, and it's a kind of a crime mystery kind of telling of a story that was based on actual incident. They've got the actual documentary if you want to see it, but it's about it's quite a dark Netflix series. So if you're up for it, it's really interesting, and you get to see. You don't usually see India on Netflix, places like that. So it's really
inclusivity, guys.
Hey,
that's what we want. We want some inclusivity here. Yeah, Aaron.
I watched Howl's Moving Castle last night. Not gonna say what I'm finding. Half these stupid films are either amazing or they don't make a lot of sense. But I'm sure that might just be because there's like a bit of there's a cultural barrier there that stuff isn't quite coming across as well. Enjoyable, but like it feels like I don't know. It feels like the narrative doesn't connect in some places.
Oh my god! Howl's Moving Castle was one of my favorite films. One of my favorite Studio Ghibli films. In hearing you,
Spirited Away is better.
I feel, oh yeah, definitely. I feel like the ones that like don't really make sense when you're watching it, I can at least appreciate from like an artistic perspective because they are all like they're beautifully animated. Yeah. Exactly, they're all great to look at. They're beautiful films, all of them. Even if you don't get them, what they're trying to get across in the story every time. So yeah.
The new one coming out is called How Do You Live? I don't know what it's about yet, but it's Hayao Miyazaki doing it again. That one's coming out. Not sure yet, but they're doing it at the moment. So there you go. There is another Studio Ghibli film. I looked at the beginning. I know this is sort of looping back to the beginning again, but there you go.
It's come full circle.
It's come full circle. It's happened. Yeah. It's a circular narrative, guys. Yeah, every time.
Brilliant.
I'm trying to think of a film that I've seen.
What's this final film?
Yeah, it's his last film. They're doing one more, and then that's
I
it.
thought he'd already retired. I thought The Wind Rises was his last film. I thought he'd already
Well,
finished.
that's what they were going to. Yeah, that's what it was going to be, but they changed their mind, and he was like, "Nah, I'm going to do one more."
Okay, well, I'm not complaining. I'm not.
Yeah, they're all good.
So,
They're all good. Oh God, I'm trying to think of a really awesome film that I can recommend. I don't even know if I've watched any films recently.
Cats the musical.
Cats.
Actually, do you know what? Okay, I'm going to recommend Jeremiah's the lecturer's film Incognito. I really enjoyed that, but I'm a bit of a history buff, so as soon as I watched it, I knew what it was about. But you guys, some people probably won't like it. It's a bit of a history. It's like a historical thing, but go on Vimeo, Jeremiah Quinn and Incognito. I thought that film was awesome. Yeah, there you go. Plug for one of the lecturers. Apart from that, don't forget to be inclusive, guys. Don't forget to let us know what you think of the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast as well. It's on all major platforms. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music. It's on YouTube. It's on that one Anchor FM. Next week we have, or maybe this week, we have Stephen and his son, and they're doing a Papa Big special crossover with the University of Salford Film Production. So please come and listen to that one because it will be awesome. I really can't wait to hear them slate me for not liking Blade Runner. So yeah,
The original.
I wish that fact
the original.
was made apparent
I hate
beforehand.
the original. I can't stand the original. I nearly walked out of that screening.
Yeah. So yeah,
I've sat through this entire podcast thinking, "Oh, Charlie seems like an all right guy," but you've just dropped the bombshell that you don't like Blade Runner.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. But yeah, they will be on next time we do a podcast. I don't know when we're doing it, but yeah, that should be coming out soon, maybe this week or next week. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for coming on and being part of this. It's been lovely to have you all.
Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So yeah, see you all later. Have a wonderful time at home. Stay safe. Don't get coronavirus. And yeah, see you all in the near future.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome.